Good evening, everyone. And thank you to our special guests for being here tonight. Welcome to the May 12th, 2026 Broomfield City Council meeting. Information on how to watch, attend, and participate, as well as agendas, minutes, and recordings can be found at Broomfield's website at broomfield.org/council meeting. So you're all going to be on TV. Public comment is welcome in person and through our call-in service. Instructions for calling in are available on the council meetings webpage. Public comment will be limited to 90 minutes per item. The first 1 through 15 participants have 3 minutes to speak. The next 16 through 25 have 2 minutes. And if time remains, the next 26 plus participants have 1 minute to speak. For our hard of hearing residents present, we have wireless headsets available in the back of the council chambers through our AV team. The City Council regular meeting is called to order. There are 10 council members in attendance, and a quorum of the council is present. We begin this meeting by acknowledging that we gather on the ancestral and unceded lands of the Arapaho, Cheyenne, Ute, and other Native peoples. Indigenous peoples have cared for this land for generations and continue to maintain deep cultural and spiritual ties to it. As the City and County of Broomfield, we recognize the responsibility to honor this legacy and the enduring presence of Native communities. May this acknowledgement inspire action that fosters greater understanding, truth, and respect for Indigenous peoples. Will everyone please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. In an effort to keep order for tonight's meeting, I ask council members to limit their comments to 5 minutes. If council members are given an opportunity to speak for a second time, they could limit their comments to 2 minutes. And we'll plan on a 10-minute break at approximately 8 p.m. We'll begin with council's review and approval of this evening's agenda. Council may add or remove items from the consent agenda, or council may revise the order of business for the meeting. Does any member of council have any comments or questions regarding this evening's agenda? All right, are there any objections to this agenda being approved? Being none, the agenda is approved. For our first item under petitions and communications this evening, we'd like to honor some special guests with us from Holy Family High School. Tonight, we're proud to recognize an extraordinary accomplishment by the Holy Family High School robotics team, Team 4265X, also known as APX. In just their second year as a program, these students have already made their mark on the world stage at the 2026 VEX V5 Robotics World Championship in St. Louis, competing against 87 elite teams from across the globe, including countries like Taiwan, Singapore, Germany, and Australia. They earned the prestigious Create Award, one of only 11 judged honors in their division. And this award celebrates not just success, but ingenuity, recognizing teams that demonstrate creative engineering, innovative design, and strong, well-documented problem-solving process. And their success didn't stop there. Team APX advanced to the division finals and ranked in the top third of their division. And in the global skills competition, they placed 53rd out of 140 teams from 43 countries, an incredible top 6% finish worldwide. Okay. What makes this achievement even more impressive is that this competition is entirely student-driven. These young innovators design, build, code, and refine their robots, documenting every step along the way and defending their work through formal judging interviews. Their dedication, teamwork, and perseverance embody the very best of our community. On behalf of the City Council, we congratulate Team APX for representing Holy Family High School and our entire community with excellence, creativity, and pride. Thank you all again. Congratulations. I would like to invite your representatives to come up and provide any remarks if you would like to. I see a robot, so okay. This is a first for the city and county of Broomfield. Wow. It makes really quick turns. It's awesome. Wow, that's so impressive. Would you like to say anything? Okay.
Hello, I'm Eric from Holy Family. I'm a sophomore, and I handled a lot of the build side of the robots and using Onshape and all the pieces and parts to create it. And we just want to say thank you for Bloomfield for helping us out with electronics, which is a huge piece to be able to run all the systems and be able to make the robots drive like they just did. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so along the same lines, our program, when we were just getting started, we needed help with the field. And you guys stepped up. It's through the Broomfield Arts and Science Grant that we were able to get the field that started. And the electronic systems that are running on the robots were through a second grant from the Broomfield Arts and Science. So
That's even better.
thank you very much for your sponsorship of all of the wonderful achievements that have enabled these students and our growing program. So we thank you very much for your support.
Well, that's amazing. Well, we do allow people to speak. If you guys want to say anything, no pressure. If not, we could invite the public if any. Oh, good. Okay.
Hey, I'm Joseph. I'm one of the main programmers. We have two. I was the head of just the general GUI. So we built a handmade GUI with just Python and basic graphs, and it's been a major part of how we've.
GUI is the graphical user interface.
Yes, yes.
I remember that. Okay.
And that really helped. Obviously, the first 15 seconds of every match being autonomous,
Mhm.
that really pushed us forward because having a good autonomous is really what defines a good team at the highest level.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we also allow public comment on our proclamations, or would anybody else like to speak? If not, I'll go to our city council. We'll start with you, Councilmember Cohen.
Thank you, Mayor. I had attended a number of robotics competition actually in the first program. They were like cage matches. From what I remember, two things about it. One, there were cage matches. I don't know if that was what your type of competition was, where it was two robots trying to load blocks or something within a certain time.
It is similar. So first is on a basketball court size field. This is on a 12 by 12 field, but it is 2v2. So you have two robots versus two other robots. So 4 robots, full contact. And so they're trying to accomplish the objective while offense and defense is going on.
So this should be televised and watched, right?
I
It is.
agree. I would enjoy that.
The other thing I recall about the competition was the costumes, in that there was a lot of teamwork and every team had a different look or a costume. I don't know if you guys did that as well, or what your mascot was.
We use the Holy Family.
Okay.
So these are our competition jerseys.
Okay.
But yes, there can be themes as well. Depends on the different teams, but yeah, our mascot's the tiger, and these are our competition jerseys.
Well, congratulations. And what I know about this competition is a lot of work, but teaches a lot about teamwork. And you rely on each other, and it's great skills that you will carry forward to great success, I'm sure. So thank you for everything you do, and congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll go to Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you for being here. And as a mechanical engineer, I really, really appreciate having a robotics team here. I just want to say I have a long history with FRISS Robotics, and I have more recently been able to help out with VEX Robotics and to judge the competitions. And those engineering notebooks are incredible. I've gotten to see enough of the variety there, and some of your teams, I'm sure you're one of them. The amount of work that goes into the engineering notebook, you can't even see all that within the robot. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Councilmember Peterson.
I'm just curious about what tasks you needed the robot designed to do.
Yeah, so we get a new game each year. We actually just got a new game about a week ago, but last year we had to score these blocks. They're about 3 1/4 inches onto different heights and goals. And they were open-ended. So as we scored ours, it would push out the other teams. So it's the back and forth aspect. And then you got points for owning those control zones, for having the most blocks or different elements like that. And then at the very end, you had to get 2 robots, and these are 18-inch robots, into about a 24-inch square and balance them. And so that was difficult, but we were able to balance both front and back and to be able to get that 30-point bonus at the end of the match. So
Well, that's very impressive.
Next, we'll go to Councilmember Henkel.
Thank you. I am learning new things about my fellow council members. First of all, I had no idea. This is like truly a thing. My son attended Holy Family, but he joined because he wanted to play sports with all his buddies. So this is vastly different, but it sounds equally as cool. And I first have a few things. I would love to have you guys just introduce your names. You don't have to speak. How about that? Does that work? In your class?
I'm Riley and I'm a junior.
Great, thank you.
I'm Emily. I'm a junior.
Hi, I'm Luke. I'm also a junior.
I'm Ash and I'm also a junior.
this is our trophy that we got from World State.
Oh,
Great award.
that is
We're
so
going to
cool.
take a picture with y'all and with the trophy. So let's assemble.
Can I
in
ask
front
one
of-
more question?
Oh, sorry, I thought you're done.
Does it do your homework for you?
Wish.
Ah, dang it. All right. Well, you have a whole bunch of juniors here. Thank you all so much. And if parents are here too, we know how much time and sacrifice that this takes, as well as financing too. And I don't know if you guys fundraise, but I personally would love to donate as well to the team. And I feel like, you know, this is a good opportunity to learn outside of the classroom and just to show off certain skills. And even, are there scholarships for this for colleges? I'm assuming. There is, yeah, because gaming is now scholarship sometimes too. So this is pretty cool. Thank you. That's it.
All right, well, we're going to take a group photo together. So let's meet in front of the dais.
Okay. It says front rate on 15, but we can go up to like 22.
All right, moving on. Next, under petitions and communications this evening is a proclamation declaring May 2026 as Mental Health Awareness Month. Will the representatives here to accept the proclamation please make their way to the podium? And I'll now summarize the proclamation. Mental health continues to be a leading concern for Broomfield residents, with over 20% of residents reporting frequent poor mental health days. In response, more than 2.45 million has been invested in behavioral health in the Broomfield community, including opioid settlement funds, state grants, retail marijuana funds, city funds, and nonprofit grant funds. A multi-sector partnership has come together to address these needs, and it includes our municipal courts, the Broomfield Detention Center, Broomfield Co-Responders, Clinica, Family Health and Wellness, the Broomfield Community Foundation, the Refuge, and Boulder Valley and Adams 12 school districts, among others. Key efforts to include peer support services that connect individuals to treatment and recovery. Broomfield's Municipal Courts Navigator has seen over 600 clients with behavioral health issues since 2023 and provided wraparound services to support individuals in seeking mental health and/or substance use treatment. Together with the detention center, 108 peer support visits have been provided to support individuals who are involved with the justice system to assist in connecting to resources. Therefore, as mayor, I hereby declare and proclaim May 2026 as Mental Health Awareness Month in the city and county of Broomfield. Would our representatives like to make any remarks?
Hi there. Thank you all so much for, again, welcoming us here to have May as mental health. I'm Sarah Mock. I'm with our public health department, and we really do appreciate this opportunity to bring awareness to mental health and all that our community is doing to support friends and family and neighbors. It really does take a community to support mental health, and we have seen the community really embrace this over the last 5 or 6 years, really. At that start of COVID, I think it was like a light bulb moment for all of us that we cannot do this alone. So I do want to recognize some of our, there we are, they moved on me. Our partners in all of this work. So B Corps is here tonight as well. I think we have some representatives from our school districts as well. Hi, school districts. I didn't actually know you would be here. And then Clinica Health and Family Wellness is also here, a great partner in providing direct services to members of our community. And Judge Bachman will say a few words. I do want to say we really have seen a lot of these improvements. Both adults and youth are saying that they're getting the support that they need, the services, and that their overall mental health is better. This is some recent data that was published through our Colorado Health Access Survey. So we were thrilled. We got to watch those numbers go up for the first time in a while, which has been really satisfying. So we wanted to put a little bit of emphasis on our peer support program, which was mentioned in the proclamation. But in addition to the peer support work that happens through our municipal courts, we also have an individual at the refuge, Laura Johnson. And I just want to read this statistic because it blows my mind. In her first 8 months of being on board at the refuge, Laura connected with over 400 people at the refuge, and has given them a way to connect with her story individually and also to then connect into services. So this is a huge accomplishment. You can applaud her, but she's not here. Okay, we'll do it. On a much, much smaller scale in our public health department, we do have 2 youth who are in peer support for tobacco use, quitting tobacco with other youth. They have been trying their best. This is a really hard group to get in the door to quit nicotine. So we're going to keep supporting them. But I'd also like to just give it over to Judge Bachman to talk a little bit about the work that the peer support specialist does within the courts.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ms. Mock.
All right, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of City Council. So tonight's proclamation is more than symbolic. It reflects a shared understanding that mental health matters deeply here in Broomfield. It matters to this council, it matters to public health, and it matters to our courts. It is something that, as we recognize, I want to take a moment to highlight a group of individuals who bring that commitment to life every single day, and that is our peer support specialists. These are some of the most impactful people working quietly behind the scenes in our community, because what they bring isn't just training or credentials, it's lived experience. And they have the opportunity to connect to people when they are going through some of their darkest times. And that really does make a difference. They know what it feels like to struggle, to feel isolated, to feel like the system just doesn't work. And because of that, when they show up, it's different. They don't show up with judgment. They don't show up with a checklist. They show up as human beings saying, I see you. I've been there. And because of that, they really are able to connect with individuals that really lack trust. Now, in our community, supporting those with mental health challenges isn't just a priority. Again, it's a shared responsibility, because so many of these individuals who come through our system aren't problems to solve. They are people who need connection, trust, and support. And that is where our peer support specialists in Broomfield step in. They are often the bridge, the very real connection to resources that might otherwise feel out of reach. So one of our peer support specialists is a gentleman named Michael. I wish Michael was here tonight. I hope at some point you all get the opportunity to meet Michael. Michael's story is just incredible. Michael spent 3 years living on the streets in Denver, struggling with mental health and substance use challenges. Then in 2023, he was finally able to access the help he needed and begin turning his life around. And from that moment on, he made a commitment to help others do the same. Today, he shows up for people in the exact place he once was, in court, bringing not just support, but credibility, understanding, and hope. When he says, "I've been there," it really does change everything. Let me give you a couple examples. There is a teenager in our community who is involved in our municipal court. He is dealing with feelings of isolation and is struggling with severe mental health challenges. He's unable to attend school and he's feeling disconnected from his peers. He lacks support. And then there's the peer support specialist, Michael, who is now taking him to lunch every single week. No agenda, no pressure, just showing up again and again, building that trust and offering that support. And now, with the help of Michael, the peer support specialist, this teen is actively engaged in mental health treatment, actually through Clinica. There was a woman who came to court dealing with addiction. She was accepted into a residential treatment program that she truly needed, but was nervous about going to a facility that she knew very little about. And then it just so happens that was the exact facility that Michael went to that helped change his life. It was actually up in Estes Park. Now, Michael found out about this when he was sitting in the back of the courtroom, and he sat with her for over an hour after court was over, telling her about the food at this facility, the counselors, and the best activities to attend. And after that conversation, she was not just committed to going, but actually excited about the opportunity to change her life path, just as Michael had done. And then there's the person who's dealing with both mental health and substance use challenges. Someone who's been through the system before and has very little trust. That's very common. And the peer support specialists, both Michael and Laura, showed up for this woman over and over again, meeting her in court, meeting her at the refuge, meeting her throughout the community. No judgment, no ultimatums, just consistency, just presence, with the hope that one day, eventually, the wall will come down enough for her to say, "Okay, I'll consider help." And we're still in the process of building that trust, that relationship with our peer support specialists. Now, that's just something that you can't mandate, and it's not something you can order as a judge, and it's not something that you can rush. That's trust, and it's earned. Peer support specialists meet people exactly where they are, not where we wish they were. And in doing so, they help create real pathways to healing. So tonight, as we recognize the importance of mental health in our community, I want to make sure that we also recognize the people doing this incredibly personal and often invisible work, our peer support specialists, because they are changing lives, not through force, not through policy, but through connection. And in many ways, they remind us of what community is supposed to look like. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judge Bachman. I don't have many words for that. It's just so inspiring.
It is.
Would anyone else like to speak on this? Then we'll go to the public. We allow public comment on our proclamations if anyone would like to be heard. Then I'll go to council. Colleagues, do you guys have anything you would like to add? Councilmember Henkel.
Thank you. Thank you for these stories. I feel like that's truly an impactful way to understand what it means to gain trust. And I feel that is one of the things, if anyone is going through anything with mental health. My mom was paranoid schizophrenic when I grew up. I was the high school cheerleader. And at the same time, my mom was pulling up carpet in my house and putting up static in the windows and taping everything up with duct tape. And I didn't feel comfortable about having anyone in my home. I felt embarrassed. And I just really appreciate all of the advocacy that you guys do, particularly not only with the adults, but also the youth also experiencing that. And I wouldn't know I didn't know at the time what to do. I think I would now if I were a teenager to reach out and figure out how I could get my mom help. But at the time, it was just too embarrassing. And so I really appreciate all the education that our mental health advocates really do. And I appreciate all of the stories and just the support that we're giving to our teens. It's one of the things that my daughter actually complains about at the school is the vaping. So yeah, so it's the tobacco use and all of that. And so it's a real struggle for teens because they don't want to rat each other out, right? They want to, support each other out of that. And so I'd be curious to know more stories about vaping and how we're really, getting them to stop vaping, and even adults too. So I love more stories about that too. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Peterson.
I just want to thank you again for sharing those stories. It's very encouraging, and I really appreciate what you had to say about people not being problems to solve. That's really important to remember. And so, yeah, that's all. Oh, and I know Laura from the Refuge, and she's wonderful.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Lim.
I know our proclamation mentioned our funding sources, which are very important. And in the flurry of the legislative session that is just ending, I know that the budget had some cuts to the marijuana sales tax that's going to local governments in order to balance the statewide budget. So and we'll probably be talking in the future, I think, here about our local impacts as things settle down. But do we have a feel for how that will impact us locally already?
Thank you for the question. I'm Deb Butterspill. I'm the Deputy Public Health Director. We actually were discussing this with finance the other day, and so our finance team here in the city and county is still working on the actual projections. We do think that it will lower our overall budget, but when we brought the spending plan to this council for the retail marijuana sales tax funds, we did a conservative spending plan because it was so new in terms of, the state amounts had previously been somewhat consistent, but as stores were coming online here locally, when you blended those funds, it was still too soon to have solid projections. So we budgeted for $750,000 a year. The funds are utilized for contracts, and that's part of a spending plan that we brought before council. The money goes to fund part of the B Corps program, our co-responder program, as well as contracts with our local school districts to provide behavioral health intervention. And then finally, with Clinicut to provide some of the support that you heard about tonight. So at this time, we don't have exact numbers, but we think because we budgeted conservatively, we'll be able to maintain level for those programs, at least in the short term. And then we'll reassess and bring that back in future sessions.
Great, thank you. I'm glad to hear we won't have huge cuts in services.
Wonderful. That is good news. Well, thank you all. Any other colleagues want to speak? Would you like to take a photo with us? And I will present the proclamation officially.
First, can I invite you to a party since we didn't bring a robot? We will be hosting a sober summer night out, a free family. Yes, you will be a friend. Oh my gosh, so many F's. A free family friendly event at the Refuge in Broomfield on May 29th. And we are going to have a silent disco. It's a sober event. I've never done a silent disco. So we'll see. Acu Detox. It'll be great. So I'll give them. Okay. Oh, how nice is that? Wait, Sarah.
Would y'all like to come out? Well, I'm actually here for another item to give us an update. Since you're here. Thank you for participating in it. All right, and oh, we've got party invites. I already know about it. Pass it down. Next, under petitions and communications this evening is a proclamation declaring May 17th through 23rd as Public Works Week in Broomfield. Will the representatives here to accept the proclamation come on down to the podium and I'll summarize it. Public Works professionals play a critical role in maintaining the infrastructure, services, and emergency response systems that support Broomfield's public health, safety, and quality of life. Broomfield's infrastructures, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of our public works professionals who are federally mandated first responders and the engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our community's transportation, water supply, water treatment, solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our residents. The proclamation highlights the importance of recognizing their contributions, encouraging public awareness and understanding of their work, and expressing appreciation for the dedication and expertise these professionals bring to serving the Broomfield community. Therefore, as mayor, I hereby declare and proclaim May 17th through 23rd as Public Works Week in Broomfield. Barney, would you like to make any remarks?
Absolutely. So Mayor Pro Tem, council members, and city leadership, thank you for giving me the opportunity this evening to recognize the professionals and the solid individuals that I have the privilege of working with every day since I've been here in Broomfield. This year's theme for Public Works Week is rooted in service, powered by community, and it perfectly defines our team. Public Works is a silent heartbeat of Broomfield. While our work is often behind the scenes, it ensures the city remains functional, efficient, and safe. I want to recognize the dedicated men and women of the Public Works Division, whether it's clearing snow or cleaning facilities at 3 o'clock in the morning, or maintaining facilities and buildings and fleet vehicles at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Their tireless efforts keep the community moving forward. I also want to acknowledge our colleagues in water utilities. Though we recently transitioned into separate departments, our mission remains one and the same. We are grateful for their continued partnership and shared dedication to serving Broomfield's residents. I was in the military for about 10 years in a position that was very much behind the scenes. Not a lot of pilots get all the recognition, but we didn't. And I see Public Works as very, very much the same. A lot of work goes into maintaining the facilities, maintaining the city, responding to emergency actions, working to ensure the air quality is good, that our partners in the oil fields are out there doing the right thing. And it's just amazing all the work that goes in behind the scenes that most people don't get to see. So I want to thank City Council for this proclamation and for this recognition that most of these folks probably are shy to receive, but it's very, very well deserved. And I have a few folks here that I like to stand up. We're not going to introduce everybody, but Public Works folks. Very good. So thank you for the opportunity and thank you for the proclamation. And I would like to invite City Council as well as the city at large to our Public Works Academy, Public Works and Water Utilities Academies that will be held this weekend. It'll be a great opportunity. It's this Saturday, a great opportunity for you to see the work that goes on behind the scenes, meet the people that keep your city safe. So look forward to seeing you there.
Well, thank you. Will we also allow public comment? If anyone would like to speak on this item, you may. Seeing none, we'll go to council. Do my colleagues have any remarks? Pressure? I'm going to go ahead and present the proclamation. All of you, your quiet dedication, to keeping everything running smoothly so that we don't get complaints.
Never happens. Thank you.
All right, so next we're moving on to council member reports. Do any of my colleagues have any reports or updates this evening they'd like to share? Councilmember Ward.
Thank you, Mayor. So last Wednesday through Friday, I had the opportunity to attend DRCOG's first ever peer exchange program. So this year, DRCOG decided we would go up to Seattle, and shadow's not a good word, but have interactions and discussions and tour the Seattle area and the Puget Sound Regional Council of Governments. So my report for council will be coming, but just FYI, it is not necessarily entirely geared towards Broomfield specifically, but there are, I think, are certain takeaways that I did receive on that trip that would be beneficial to Broomfield, but it's predominantly aimed at DRCOG as one of our, as the member.
Mention what that is for people who don't know what DRCOG is.
Oh, DRCOG is not an actual doctor, contrary to what some people think. It stands for the Denver Regional Council of Governments. It is our metropolitan planning organization, our transportation planning region, and our AAA, which is the Area Agency on Aging for Broomfield.
Thank you, and thank you so much for representing us there. It's a lot of work. Councilmember Henkel.
Thank you, Mayor. Two things. Just wanted to say, I was able to testify on Alyssa's Youth Concussion Mental Health Protection Act, and the governor signed it. This legislation helps strengthen mental health support in youth athletics by equipping coaches with education and helping families better recognize potential mental health impacts following concussions. And we had a lot of teenagers in support of it and had a lot of good testimony because a lot of kids are becoming suicidal after concussions. The last thing too is there is an event tomorrow night called the Cost of Poverty Experience, or COPE, at the Broomfield Community Center from 6 to 8:30. COPE is a 2.5-hour immersive experience designed with direct input from families who live in poverty and have navigated current helping systems. In a prosperous city, the systemic hurdles that prevent our neighbors from thriving are often invisible. This simulation highlights firsthand encounters of what it's like to navigate systems and social challenges for people in poverty. Come see why a diverse range of housing and services is not just a social goal, but an economic necessity for a resilient community. A lot of members of our nonprofit community will be there as well, and we'd love to have you there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Twist.
Thank you, Mayor. Not so much a report, but a follow-up and thank you and information. Sorry. On Thursday night at our study session, I asked questions about our water utility assistance program, questioning the costs of both the program itself and the staff. Staff then followed up, and my assumptions were incorrect. And of course, staff had a very thoughtful, as per usual, approach to the program. And I just want to say that I appreciate that. And a thank you to Deputy Manager Bertanzetti, Director Rhett, and your staff for the thoughtful work that you do every day and for answering ever so many questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, moving on. We'll now continue with public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to comment on matters other than the items already listed on tonight's agenda. So if there's anyone who would like to be heard, please make your way to the podium, state your name and neighborhood for the record, and limit your comments to 3 minutes, please. Please make your way to the podium, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem and council members. I've been to a couple of these largely around the Broomfield Town Center project. And after the last one, I walked away and I kind of looked up what you all make and get paid. And I really think you should double your pay. You all care about this town and you all work very hard for this town. And it just seems disproportionate that you manage and guide a budget the size that it is. And the compensation is so insignificant. So take that to heart and know that I would support that if you guys ever chose to have the courage. You're obviously all very courageous. And then a couple comments on the Broomfield Town Center. I know that, I don't even know if the developer's in the room tonight.
No, we're just having an information update. We're not going to decide anything. And
Hopefully you're okay with me saying a couple things about
I
it.
will let you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
You know, the other day I was watching the movie Glory for the umpteenth time, and there is a scene in there with Matthew Broderick and Denzel Washington standing at the edge of a marsh. And it's the final heavy scene before they go into the final battle scene, right? And they're discussing the situation and how it stinks. And what do? And they pause and Denzel chimes in. He goes, well, you ante up and kick in. So I think that applies to both the council and to the developer. I was really struck with how, for lack of a better way to describe it, how angry the developer had made the council. And you can't dismiss that. Something happened. I have been on conference calls with the developer and only got that side of it. But I walked away going, boy, I look at you guys up there and I'm like, you guys really do care about this town. So my hope is that you find a path forward with this developer, because the flip side is probably nothing's going to happen there for 20 to 30 years. Council Member Cohen, you had mentioned that you were concerned about, you know, doing a Broomfield First Bank Center 2.0. It's a very valid concern. And I'm glad that you're thinking that way. And Councilmember Woman Twist, you raised a very valid point about sales tax. That is prohibitive. It's going to keep a bike shop from moving in there. Something in the equation needs to adjust that sales tax down below 10%. Whether you're elongating the sales tax capture period for the developer, whatever the math is. I mean, I could see people choosing not to go get a latte at the coffee shop because they're going to pay 10.5% or whatever the percentage was. And Councilmember Ward, you raised a point where you kind of, at the end of one of your commentaries, you were like, well, if you don't get this off the ground in 18 months or whatever, what do we do? And that's where that scene from Glory came in. You kind of ante up and kick in because you're in partnership with this developer till, from what I understand, 2044. And as a long-term member, I didn't say where I live. I live down in Country Estates. My name's Chris Kadira. I've lived here for 26 years. I'm a New England transplant. I want to see this before I'm in the ground. And I'm sure you all do too. So thank you.
Thank you very much for your thoughtful comments. Would anyone else like to be heard? All right. Then we'll move on to the reports section, and we'll continue with a presentation from the Boulder Valley and Adams 12 school districts. We have with us this evening Molly Brandt, Adams 12 Chief Operating Officer, and Rob Price, Assistant Superintendent of Operations for BVSD. Take it away, Mr. Price and Ms. Brandt.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present tonight on this very important topic. I am Rob Price, Assistant Superintendent of Operational Services for Boulder Valley School District.
And I am Molly Brandt, Chief Operating Officer for Adams 12 5-Star Schools. And we'll be doing this dance, back and forth the entire presentation, but we are very happy to be here. As you know, as both of our school districts are facing declining enrollment and the difficult decision to close or consolidate schools in our future. We are not alone in facing this challenge. As you know, school districts across Denver metro area and across this country have faced this challenge or addressed this same reality. We are here to share the work both of our school districts are doing as a part of your city in preparation for recommendations and decisions that hope to come this fall. In order to meet this goal for long-term success, we must make sustainable changes in both of our districts for long-term success of our students and a thriving experience for both our community, our students, and our staff.
Next slide, please.
Okay, our dance was a little fast. My apologies. So our challenge, as you see on the screen, is due to many factors. We are experiencing declining enrollment, but by no means is this bulleted list an exhaustive or exclusive list of why. But it does help explain where we are and why we're here today. So across the nation, we are seeing declining enrollment in birth rate. And according to the state demographer's office, it's even lower here in Colorado. Simply put, fewer people are choosing to have kids, and when they do, it's typically later in life. To bring your attention to the graph, this was provided by our state demographer's office, you can see that we have an aging population. If you focus on the dark blue band, those are 18 or 0 to 18-year-olds. So those are who you expect to be enrolled in our schools and enrolled in a K-12 education in your city. This population is expected to continue to decline over the next 10 years. And on the flip side, if you look at the orange band, that is our fastest growing population in Colorado, which is 65 plus. The situation is exacerbated by the cost of homes and that the housing stock is not turning over as quickly as it once did. This is called aging in place. And aging in place is another barrier to not allowing our younger families to enter our school districts, as there's not a lot of houses on the market that are affordable. So people are staying in their starter homes longer. They're even aging in place, as the term indicates, staying there through as their kids move out, finish their K-12 education, off to greater things, and they're even retiring in their homes. And so with that, we have less young families coming into our communities to fill up our K-12 schools. Next slide.
Perfect. With fewer children living in our communities, there should be no surprise that we just are serving fewer students. It's also important to note that the data shown on these two graphs is not exactly the same. Each of our districts include or exclude slightly different student groups in our enrollment reporting. But you can see the overall story is the same between the two districts. Declining birth rates, demographic shifts, or what we're seeing in our communities are showing up in the enrollment trends for both of our districts. What that means in practical terms is that smaller kindergarten classes are entering our schools each year and larger graduating classes are graduating out. In short, both of our districts are getting incrementally smaller over time, and based on current projections, we do not see that trend reversing in the near future. At the same time, the overall pool of students is getting smaller, while families have more educational choices than ever, and that may include schools within our district, schools outside of our district, online programs, homeschooling, and other options. And all of that just adds complexity to a very complex system. And choice is an important part of the educational landscape, but again, it is not a silver bullet to solving the enrollment challenges when the overall number of school-age children living in our communities continues to decline. Next slide. The impact of declining enrollment shows up pretty clearly in our school buildings. So across both districts, we're seeing an overall building utilization between 60 and 70%. Building utilization is enrollment divided by the program capacity within those schools. So said another way, we have more space than we currently serve for the number of students that we currently serve. You may notice that Adams 12 and Boulder Valley are looking at this just a little differently. Adams 12 is looking at both the elementary and middle levels, Boulder Valley is only looking at the elementary level at this time because that's where we're seeing the impact of declining enrollment being the most immediate. But the broader point for both districts is the same. When enrollment declines over time, buildings become less utilized. Really creates real challenges for us in how we staff, operate, maintain, and invest in our schools.
Next slide. So you've heard our challenges that we're experiencing and the data behind it. And really, we have a shared goal. We have a goal to create a learning environment where our students thrive. We want a thriving experience for kids as they attend our schools on a daily basis. We want our communities to feel that our students are having those thriving experiences and parents to have the same. I know it's what they all desire. It's what we desire as well. So how do we get there? Next slide. So the first step is engagement. And although between Boulder Valley and Adams 12, our engagement approach has been different over the past years, we both have connected with our communities. And we've done this through a lot of different means, and some are listed here. They include our Board of Education, presenting and talking with our district committees, community meetings, interactive webinars, surveys, and polls. And from this engagement, what we've heard has really been consistent. Like I said, even though we approach it differently, we've heard consistent values that students and families want. This is full-time staff. They want full-time specials available for their students. They want more robust after-school programming, whether that be clubs, athletics, or even just care beyond the school day, a time to have some social emotional interaction with their peers. Ample support staff, robust academic offerings, and focused instruction with dedicated teachers. And this has informed our path forward that we'd like to share with you.
Next slide, please. And those priorities are reflected in the goals both of our districts have identified as we move forward. So first, we want to maintain excellence in learning, making sure students continue to have strong academic programs and sports they need to be successful. Second, we are focused on balanced and sustainable enrollment, which means right-sizing our schools. Third, we want to protect the student and family experience by ensuring our schools remain welcoming, where students feel connected, supported, and part of the community. And finally, we have the responsibility for efficient and financial stewardship, making sure we are using our resources in ways that best support students while also recognizing the financial realities both districts are facing. Next slide. So similar to other parts of the slide deck, both districts are on the same trajectory. We are both in the process of considering the feedback we've received and refining the school adjustment options this summer. And then our plan is to make decisions this fall with implementation beginning the 27-28 school year.
Next slide, please. So as we end our presentation here tonight, we want our communities to know that they can get the latest information on our websites, and they're here on this slide for you. We continually update these pages. This is the source of truth. This is what we've been updating as we hear questions from our community, staff, students, and parents. We thank you for your time tonight. We appreciate your interest in our ongoing partnership. We know that working alongside our municipalities as decisions are made is critical. We know that and I want you to know that we're committed to updating you throughout this process as we move forward. So thank you again, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you both so much for being here. Our partnership is just truly important to all of us. So we appreciate you being here, helping us generate awareness to our residents and parents, of course. So we do take public comment. If anyone would like to comment on this item, you are welcome to. Then we'll go to council questions and comments. Do my colleagues have any questions? Councilmember Cohen.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for being here tonight. A couple years ago, I worked in higher ed, and a number of years before that, we talked about the trough. the demographic trough that we expected in a number of these years, but we expected it to go back up about mid part of this decade. So any insight of what happened? It appears to have just leveled out. Is that what we're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, what we are seeing is birth rates have dropped significantly. 10 years ago, we were seeing about 1.4 births per woman. Now we're seeing that down to 1. I think cost of living has a significant factor on our districts with younger families not being able to afford to live here. Therefore, they're finding more affordable options elsewhere. So we've been tracking it. And then, a lot of people that are moving in are that 65 plus that Molly talked about. So they're going to stay here for a while, making it challenging for families to come in and find housing opportunities. So we're seeing that growth at 65 plus and a significant decline with our elementary age students across both districts.
Are you seeing impact from immigration policies as well?
I'll speak on behalf of Boulder Valley. We were projected to be down about 260 students this year. We were down a little over 500, and a lot of that was due to the immigration policies that we saw.
So I know you're trying to avoid the word closure, but that's a lot of Denver's been closing school districts, other districts the same, Jeffco. One thing that's been happening in other districts, and I'm not familiar with what your policies have been, is they've sort of exacerbated by the situation by opening charters at the same time. Jeffco in particular has opened charters at quite a clip, and now they've spread out a lot of students over a lot of facilities, which is going to cause a lot of pain. I don't know what your approach has been in dealing with your facilities as well as the demand for charters.
So charter schools opening as a part of this closure consolidation is not something Adams 12 has looked into. We're in the refining options part of our timeline where we're trying to look at our existing inventory of buildings and how we could close or consolidate those in the best ways to come up with a recommendation to our board this September.
And are you looking at school pairing? I think some districts have looked at that, of pairing schools together as a strategy.
Yes, we've researched what other school districts have done in our area, so Douglas County and DPS and Jeffco and others. And we do know that there is some school pairings, and I think what you're meaning by that is a school closing and kind of moving all as one school into another. Our goal is to maximize the potential for kids in our buildings. And we hope that we aren't looking at just one way of doing it, just at school pairings, but what is the best for that community nearby and the schools around it in its proximity.
Thank you. And have you looked at anything? I know some places have looked into specialization, sort of like magnet school strategy, that schools will, like charters, will become specialized and people will use their choice to go to a different school.
Yeah, I would. So our board is considering really 5 different actions, and a couple of them, most extreme is where you close and you redistribute those students to multiple schools. Consolidation would be another one where you close a school, but it consolidates with one other school, then kind of re-norms, et cetera. Magnet schools, focus schools is another option. The challenge with that we're seeing with focus schools is we got such a small population right now of students to pull from. Right now, we just have too many facilities, too many open seats. Some of the other options, co-locating with other buildings, as you talked about, maybe putting a focus program within a neighborhood school to fill that up, to provide more resources to a school. Those are mainly the options that are used across the country that we have studied. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I think Adams 12 has studied the same. And right now, I think our goal remains that we want to just, whatever we do, we want it to be to maintain or improve the current experience for kids.
Well, I know how traumatic it is to go through this process for not only students, but also for staff. And I know Adams 12 has had to lose a lot of staff due to the drop in enrollment, which is very painful. So hopefully we can get through this. Is there anything in particular that City and County Broomfield can do looking forward strategically to help with enrollment or your process?
I will just take the opportunity to think about when you're bringing in housing, the different types of housing types that you look at. Affordable housing for sure, but single family detached definitely benefits school districts as you're thinking about apartments, multifamily, et cetera. looking at comp plans in the future, et cetera, definitely benefits school districts.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Henkel.
Thank you. I have two people over here in Ward 5 involved in the education system. Former high school teacher here. I remember teaching in a classroom of 27, which was beautiful. And then I had a classroom of 35 and I didn't know what to do with them. You know, once you get past that 30 mark, you're not quite sure. So part of me as a teacher is somewhat relieved in a way, but if it's that remarkably dropped, you know, we're going to have to think about funding. And I was a part of the Elevate program where we developed all of that over a course of a year, I want to say, where we did a lot of stakeholdering. So I would like to know and understand how stakeholdering, how that process is going to happen. I don't know as much about the Boulder Valley School District, but I do know, like Adams 12, I really am really proud of the way that we do a lot of stakeholdering, even if we want to change bell schedules, right? So I want to know what the families are feeling. And we have a lot of teachers and paraprofessionals and staff in our community too. So would love to hear what that stakeholdering process will look like.
Yeah, and so prior to now, we spent, like you said, we did the Elevate engagement to build our strategic vision and plan forward. And then over the past couple years, so past 2 to 3 years, we've been really focusing on a blueprint plan that informed both our 2024 bond and our 2025 mill. And with that, we had some subcommittees. We grew that long-range planning committee and we divided into subcommittees. And one subcommittee really focused on this idea of a thriving school, a profile of a graduate, and they visited schools, they talked to our staff, they talked to community, and really came up with that profile for us. So that work happened prior to us getting to this point where the data has caught up, where closure and consolidation is now a reality. And what we hope to do is to take the factors that were identified and the criteria and what was important to our community and apply that to today in where we are. Like I said, on the timeline, we are developing scenarios and coming up with what's feasible based on the factors and criteria that were developed for our thriving profile, and using that to provide recommendations to the board.
And is there any way we could advocate? Do you have an answer to that too, or?
Yeah, happy to answer it. You know, we've been talking about this since 2022. So our board has been dedicated to this work for the last 4 years or so. I would say just focused on the last 6 months, we've held a number of community engagement sessions, held one specifically at Broomfield High School. We're doing some surveying and polling right now. We have met with every individual elementary teacher. We've met with all of our elementary principals to get a better understanding of this. And then we're doing, again, some surveying and polling just really to understand what the values, the priorities of our community are. And then that will help shape the school adjustment options that we bring forward to the board in August. So a significant amount of engagement, really listening first, and then we're leading after that engagement. All of the engagement in Boulder Valley will be presented to the board on June 9th. Again, then that will be used to shape how we move forward.
Gotcha, thank you. Yeah, I would really love to advocate just to keep transportation in mind. We've been resettling refugees in the area, and we even had a difficult time getting them to their Jeffco schools over by the Arista area. And so if we are shifting schools, just keeping in mind those lower socioeconomic areas that need that transportation. And I really want to echo, you know, the privilege that we have here in Broomfield too. Kids went to Meridian Legacy. Granted, we live within walkable, bikeable. That's all my kids do is walk and bike generally until my kids got a license, right? But you know, a lot of our kids can travel a little bit further, and we have the resources to do so. But if there's any way we can advocate too, as well at the state level, I know they're adding curriculum, it seems, all the time as well. My daughter now has to take a finance class in addition to her government class, and she's very angry now. She has a B and not an A because of it. But she's learning, and I think it's good. So if there's any way we can advocate for just some sort of left hand talking to the right hand when we're talking about population size, growth, transportation options, and then even just how this affects our curriculum, because one teacher can't teach 4 different preps. You know, it's very difficult to do that. So if there's any way we can advocate for you all, let us know.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Lim.
I had the opportunity to attend Broomfield High School's engagement session on April 20th. I just wanted to share, I was really impressed with the amount of thought and personnel who were there to facilitate the process. It was really impressive. And a lot of the community showed up. They were very engaged. They were very passionate. We were at small tables, and I was at the table with a parent, a couple parents, and a teacher. And the overriding conversation there was how how they didn't want to lose the feeling of community in the local schools. And I think, and I could relate to that too, just from, I have grown children, but just from the perspective of it will be a loss for the city and county of Broomfield to not have those community members together. I know one parent at our table shared, everybody knows the people in the area, and if a certain family is having problems, then somebody in the area probably knows that. And it's like a social service support system almost, which I'm sure teachers deal with all the time, probably to too much of a degree often. But it is a fact that in that local area, it is part of the community. So certainly, I think we as the city and county of Broomfield, those of us who don't even have children in the system are going to feel that loss of those neighborhood schools. So I'm not sure how we'll deal with that deficit if those are the choices that are made to close some of those neighborhood schools. But certainly I think we have to think about it.
Yeah, I think, and thank you for the kind words. I know neither district understands what will happen to our buildings, whatever decision is made, right? Those decisions, those discussions haven't been had. One promise I will make is that we will work with city staff once those decisions are made on what happens to those buildings. These decisions are really hard. There's no doubt about it. It is work that we need to do. What I hope to be remembered by is how we support our families, how do we support our staff through these transitions, because this is, as you talked about, probably the most impactful work, the hardest work that we will do as school districts. So making the decision is hard, impacting communities is hard, but it's how we support people through that change is what I hope we will do really, really well at. So.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Delgadillo.
Thank you, Mayor. So I have one question, which is that have you considered looking at any sort of curriculum changes to help keep students around? And the reason I ask that is from my experience on the founding board of Grove Elementary, and how a lot of those parents, those people, they want to keep their kids in public schools. They're ardent supporters of public schools. I'm an ardent supporter of public schools, but they have trouble because their kid, even if their kid is not enrolled in SPED programs or anything like that, they feel that the social emotional learning model is a lot better for their child. And the classical model of butts and seats is just not working for their kids. So we've seen, I mean, to the best of my knowledge, and this is kind of a bummer, again, as an ardent supporter of public schools, we see charter enrollment hasn't been nearly as affected as your standard public school. And that's really sad to see that we're seeing this hit for a lot of our public schools. But I'm wondering what you're thinking of when it comes to that, because I've talked to a lot of parents now who really, really desperately want their kids in a public school, but just don't feel they're able to make that choice.
No, I will speak on behalf of Boulder Valley and then let Molly speak, but that's part of the engagement process that we're doing right now. That's the feedback that we want to hear from our community. So if we're missing programs, if we're missing core parts of what parents are looking for, we would hope to know that coming out of this process. So then as we are developing those options, we could use that feedback for that information.
Yeah, very similar answer to Boulder Valley for Adams 12. And I think something we have to remember is that our goal is to maintain or improve the experience for kids. And that is everything from what their environment looks like in their building to how they access their learning to what opportunities they have in their building. So I think absolutely we're willing to look at all options.
Okay, that's exciting to hear because I think there's been a lot of data on the not, the SEL model specifically, I think has worked really, really well. And it seems all touchy-feely and fuzzy, but it does actually lead to really good academic performance from the cursory knowledge. I joke, I was on a board one time and now I know everything about public schools. I do not, obviously. But I think that shows a lot of promise there. And I would encourage you to, and this might be part of the engagement process, but talking to the families who leave and see what they're missing, right? Not just the families who are there. Because again, I'm an ardent supporter of public schools and also realize that public schools need a little bit of extra love as well. But thank you for what you do and thank you for the time.
Thank you. Councilmember Twist.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you both for being here tonight and for the presentation. As a parent in the Adams 12 community and a member of the Adams 12 Long Range Planning Group for several years now, I know we've been having the lead up to this conversation for a long time. And I really appreciate the intentionality of the steps that I've seen Adams 12 and I now looking over seeing in Boulder Valley. You have taken the opportunity to learn from other districts and know kind of what to look out for. It makes me somewhat comforted that, we have that experience to build on here in our community. What can you both just kind of go over any future opportunities there are this summer for community input, information, feedback, anything around your refining options period, both school board meetings or, other community engagement events?
We do have 2 school board meetings before we recess for summer break. So I do encourage people to go to our website and look at those. That is interesting or interested to them. I also think that there's opportunities to always engage. We love to engage, as we talked about. And one of the things that we always do is listen. And so if you email a board member, you email us, it is something that we will take as we meet in these periods between now and August. When we resume, we will have board meetings when we come back in August, usually towards the end of the month. So I think there's opportunity for that. And our website, if you go there, there's FAQs and ways to engage with this information as well.
I would, same as where Molly's at. Right now, we are going through some surveying and polling that closes on the 17th. So that's another way for our community to engage right now. Board meetings as we're leading up to the discussion. Again, staff will be developing the options over the summer. And then once we come back, we are planning on presenting those options at the second board meeting in August. Then the board members will study that and then take action in October. So at each one of those different board meetings would be an opportunity for the public to engage with the board.
To follow up on your slide of the school utilization and excess capacity, I know no matter how many times I ask Molly, she will not give a name of a school or we have had this conversation a few times or list of schools or criteria set. But can you speak to Broomfield schools specifically? Because I know Broomfield schools are but a part of both of your districts. What is the utilization rate, excess capacity that you see in Broomfield schools in both of your districts?
Do you know the answer?
I do not know that answer off the top of my head. I apologize. I probably should have had that written right here. But we are, like we said, between 60 and 70% utilization. We're seeing a greater excess capacity at our middle schools than our elementary, and that is because our middle schools, they were built during a time of increasing enrollment, and they can house larger numbers of students. And our neighborhood schools, so I don't have specific data, but I can absolutely get that back to you and the council if needed. And I apologize for not having that tonight.
Yeah, and same, some of this is about utilization. Just because we're driving dollars into maintaining facilities that are underutilized, that's not going back to the classroom, right? That's a big point of when we talk about underutilization. A bigger point is classes per grade level. So a lot of our schools right now, we're getting underneath 2 classes per grade level, which creates challenges because then we don't have the resources that we really need to serve students. So if we do nothing, 5 years from now, we'll have a lot less adults, fewer adults in our buildings to serve our kids. So there's a reason to act now because a lot of our schools are already at that threshold where we see the student experience being impacted. I can guarantee you across both of our districts, our teachers are working harder than they ever have. But that isn't sustainable, right? We can't continue to expect them to do what they're doing with fewer adults, fewer resources in the buildings to serve the kids.
I know as Mayor Pro Tem mentioned, it's never something that you want your neighborhood school to close. It's a really scary conversation right now in a lot of our smaller neighborhood areas. But I think I really appreciate the focus on the experience for the children and the educational opportunities that they will have that will be improved through this process. And I look forward to being good partners. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Anderson.
Yeah, thank you for this update. And I am one of those parents who my children went to the trailers at Meridian. That's how full it was at that moment. So that was a few years ago. This is so shocking to even hear at this point in time. I have a question about 5-Star Online Academy. Are the students at 5-Star Online Academy and the other, I'm assuming Boulder Valley has a similar school. Are they included in the enrollment numbers?
I believe they are in our data. Is yours? Yes.
And are there any trends that you're seeing there, like more kids? And I know it's been increasing. One of my children is now at 5-Star Online Academy. It has been a safe haven. And I know that the enrollment was very much increasing there. Is that still continuing, or are they starting to see a decrease back into parents bringing their kids back into the classroom settings? Have you?
I feel just like you said, those that choose the online setting choose it because of the setting. And I believe that fluctuates. What we see is that fluctuates with the needs of our students. And we're just really happy that that's something COVID brought to us, that we didn't necessarily have that option for our families and community. So we're really happy to have people enrolling into 5-Star Online. As like you said, sometimes it is the exact right choice. So our enrollment really fluctuates with the needs of the individual families in our communities.
Okay, because I was just thinking once they open the new building, it's actually, like, it's weird to think that you have an online school, but it actually has a full building. So I'm just curious if there's like the thought to build another online school, if that's sufficient, or that'd be interesting to see the trends there. And then I will also say that in 5th grade, my best friend was redistricted, or I went through a school rezoning, and one street over, my best friend was moved to another school. So it's hard. And I remember the day that was like new boundaries came out was really, really shocking. So I'm just curious, when you get to that point of actually showing some of these new boundaries, is that like going to be like the final, like it'll just come out and like this is the decision, or is there like 2 or 3 different maps and people weigh in? Have you had thoughts about how that will work?
I know that our goal is to keep communities together as much as possible. I know this is a difficult equation to solve. It's a different problem to solve. It's nuanced. But our goal is to keep communities together. And boundaries are going to be a part, most likely, of any closure consolidation scenario, because we'll have to redraw boundaries and send students to their new neighborhood school. I don't know. We haven't really had a conversation about how that will look, but I do know the timeline of that. We will announce to our board our recommendation from the staff level after all of this, after the summer in September. And then we expect a period of time before the vote. So there will be opportunity for engagement.
Okay, that's very helpful. So people, once you see the map and it's final, you can see the map and still have an opportunity to engage likely. Okay, that's good. And I appreciate the mindset of thinking that is your new school, your new home, and everything is going to be okay. But it is really difficult. So thank you for this update.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Peterson.
I had the opportunity to speak with Adams 12 Superintendent Godowski last week, and he too mentioned that the sweet spot is really about 3 classrooms per grade level. Can you explain a little bit more about why that is?
Yeah, for both of our districts, our engagement and our research into this is that 3 rounds really provides that one, the full-time specials, your full-time staff in your building, whether that's an SEL, whether that's an assistant principal, it provides that in its funding model. It also provides robust and attended after-school activities because oftentimes as your school is smaller, you're sharing a specials teacher. You're not having a robust opportunity after school to connect with your peers. So that's why that 3 round or 3 classes per grade level is really the sweet spot that Superintendent Godowski was talking about. Anything to add from Boulder Valley? Okay.
That's all. Thank you very much.
Any other questions from my colleagues? Well, again, thank you for your partnership, and let us be a resource in any way we can to generate awareness for those engagement opportunities to come. And thank you for being here. Next under reports this evening is the Master Services Agreement Quarterly Report for March 2026, which was provided on this evening's agenda under reports. We'll now proceed with public comments. If anyone would like to comment on this item. Seeing none, questions from council are next. Does any council members have any questions about the Master Services Agreement Report? Okay, moving on. Next, staff is going to provide the council with a legislative update. Council has a copy of the agenda memorandum, which I'll ask our staff to summarize.
Thank you, Mayor. And incoming is Danae Brouillard, Director of Strategic Initiatives and Governmental Affairs. And I'm surprised she's not doing back handsprings down to the podium. Tomorrow. As this legislative session comes to an end. Ms. Brouillard.
Thank you, Manager Hoffman. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. Danae Brouillard, Director of Strategic Initiatives. And I am excited to share the last legislative update of the session. I do want to note that tonight's update is very brief. Staff's time has been focused on all of the bills that are moving very rapidly in these last couple of days and over the weekend. But we will have a more robust debrief for council at the June 2nd meeting where we'll take a deeper dive. Next slide, please. All right, so the 120-day session that kicked off on January 14th adjourns tomorrow. Over the past 4.5 months, over 600 bills have been introduced, and due to the requirement that there must be at least 3 days left in the session to introduce a bill, we are finally at our final count of bills to move through the process rapidly or die on the clock. While the number of bills is similar to past years, it seemed like several of the priority bills that were identified before the session did not come until the last third part of the session. This, coupled with the delayed introduction of the state's budget and the ongoing deficit, has made for a very busy end of the session. The long bill or state budget for FY 26 to 27 was signed by Governor Polis on May 8th. There will be an impact on local governments, but the exact amount is still to be determined. There were a few things I wanted to highlight as it will impact us, and it's the pause to the multimodal transportation fund so the MMOF. That will be for 3 years and is estimated to save the state about $10.5 million each year. I am pleased to share that originally that was going to be a permanent reduction. We worked really hard with the NWMCC to get that to a temporary reduction. So it'll be for 3 years and then they'll reevaluate it at that time. We will know a little more about what that impact will be on Broomfield. Right now, we do have one grant coming from MMOF dollars, which is for the Airport Creek underpass, and it's unclear if they'll pull back any dollars that have already been awarded, or if they'll allow those projects to continue and will only impact future projects. So more to come in that space. Additionally, at the beginning of the session, Governor Polis had shared that one of his priorities was the privatization of the Pinnacle, which is the state's largest provider of workmen's compensation insurance, serving as the state's insurer of last resort. The state budget was originally balanced, if you recall, using the estimated $400 million that would have been realized from the privatization. However, the Joint Budget Committee decided against that, and they balanced the budget without that $400 million. This was a topic of discussion throughout the entire session, and there were several draft bills that were floating around that many of you saw, but we wanted to share that in the end, a bill was never introduced. So there is anticipated to maybe be a question on the ballot around privatization, but right now, the legislator will not address it this session. Next slide. So as you recall, council took positions on 9 bills. At the time of the April legislative update, 5 of the bills had already moved through the entire legislative process. Therefore, I'm not going to repeat the information we already shared as nothing's changed on those bills, but I did want to put them up on the screen for your reference. And again, as I mentioned at the beginning, we will be debriefing and reviewing those with the SMEs across the organization and come back on June 2nd to really highlight the impact that these bills will have on the city and county of Broomfield. Next slide. So the 4 bills on the screen are the bills that council took positions on that have had legislative action over the last month. The first one is Senate Bill 40, Affordable Home Ownership Program. This one finally passed last week. It had a long road. It was introduced at the very beginning of the session and just finally got over the last hurdle. Essentially, it creates a waiver program for local governments to apply to the Department of Local Affairs, or DOLA, for more flexibility in allocating funding for the down payment assistance program to eligible residents through Prop 123 funding. We saw amendments to address the eligibility issues that we're running into around the income to debt ratio. Unfortunately, there wasn't an appetite to address the issue, and the response was that a waiver process will ultimately get us the same result. So we'll work through that process and hope that we'll be able to allocate more dollars in the upcoming months. Senate Bill 150, Modernizing Regional Transportation District. Well, it had a tumultuous journey there at the end, but it did pass. It highlighted the disagreement across the districts in regards to ridership and using that metric for decision-making and gubernatorial power around board composition. The bill did pass, and staff will provide a final update on June 2nd, including some of the successes we had with the 6 amendments that you all asked us to work on during the session. Council also took positions on both of the lot splitting bills, HB 1114 and HB 1308, as you can see on the screen. We are pleased to share that both were postponed indefinitely. We were really active on these bills, and Senator Lindstedt was an incredible partner in preserving local control in this space. Next slide. In addition to the bills council took positions on, there were 3 other bills that staff was monitoring. The first one was the Front Range Passenger Rail District, or Senate Bill 172. As you may recall, it adjusts the boundaries of the Front Range Passenger Rail District, and it adjusts how the ballot measures are brought by the district. It was amended, but it is anticipated to pass later this evening. The direct impact on the city and county of Broomfield from the bill specifically is anticipated to be minimal. However, it is important to note that when it passes and if it goes on the ballot in November, there may be some unintended consequences, such as Broomfield's base sales tax could increase, likely to at least 8.65% or higher. It is unknown what level of service will be provided and the potential future obligations that may exist for Broomfield. I would like to note that Joint Service and Front Range Passenger Rail staff will be before all of you on May 26th to present their updates and their information related to that. And they will request action from you all at the June 9th council meeting around the Broomfield location. House Bill 1429 was the County Administration Public Assistance Programs. It was amended on Saturday and then has moved rapidly through the second chamber. In a precursory review, it appears the amendments align with the information we've shared previously and from CCI around technical issues, addressing how counties are involved in the third-party consultant, and then how do we resolve issues moving forward between so many departments in the county to make sure that we have progress. It is unlikely that we'll provide more information on this bill through the legislative updates, but we'll provide more routinely updates to you all as there's a lot more work to come once that gets through the legislative hurdle. HB 1430 was the transportation funding adjustments, and they have called this the Hail Mary from the legislature in response to Initiative 175. If Initiative 175 passes, it would create a constitutional requirement for the state to dedicate existing transportation-related taxes and fees to road and bridge infrastructure only, which would leave major gaps in the general fund for critical programs such as education. As you may recall, Council opposed Initiative 175 at the April 14th Council meeting, which led to HB 1430. This bill is incredibly complex, and if you review it by itself, it's very challenging to understand the mathematical movements that's happening to make the bill work. But essentially what it does is it addresses and transfers funding to protect the funding dollars that if Initiative 175 was passed would be depleted. The bill did pass on second reading in the second chamber today with amendments, which makes it a little messy with things ending tomorrow. So that means it has to go through thirds tomorrow, back to the original chamber for agreement, and if not, to conference committee. We do anticipate that it will get through all of those pieces before they adjourn tomorrow, but it has a couple of hurdles to get through. And then finally, the last item that I just wanted to flag for council was Initiative 177. So we're including that tonight for council's awareness because up until late last night, there were conversations about legislation being introduced to counter this ballot initiative, which aims to give consumers a constitutional right to natural gas. The approved language that will be on the ballot, if they have enough signatures, is on the screen for you. So you can read it there, but you can see it's very simple language. The first statement addressing consumers' rights to produce natural gas for cooking and heating. And then the second one addresses the right to sell natural gas. As you can see, the intent and details of the initiative are not explicitly clear in the language. It has caused concerns by many local governments as it's not clear how it would impact a local government's ability to regulate gas production, to protect the health and safety of the environment, and also meet greenhouse gas reduction goals. There are also concerns that it could negate the deal that was made during the last legislative session with the oil and gas industry and some of those trade-offs that were made around legislation to protect health and safety of residents. The bill ultimately was not introduced, and now that we're past the 3-day mark, it will not be introduced. But Initiative 177 was approved for circulation. So as I mentioned, they're getting signatures. If it is on the ballot, it will require the approval of 55% of the votes as it is a constitutional amendment. Next slide. All right, and that, last but not least, we'll continue to monitor what happens between now and adjournment tomorrow. As I mentioned, we will do a deeper debrief at the June 2nd meeting where Bowditch Castle Public Affairs will join us and provide an update from their lens as well. And then if council did want to take a position on Initiative 177, you could do so this evening. And that concludes the staff report.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Bouillard. We'll now proceed with public comments. If anyone would like to comment on our legislative update, you have an opportunity. No one wants it. We'll move on to council. I know you do. Mayor Pro Tem Lim.
Thank you. I would like to propose that council take an opposition position to Initiative 177.
Is that all?
I mean, I can explain if you want.
Do you want us to second it or
Explanation.
no?
I think you should expand.
So the, as written, the initiative is very vague. There's a lot of questions about what it will actually impact. Certainly, I think as Ms. Brouillard indicated, there's questions about if would even impact our ability on the local level to regulate the production of oil, of gas, because it kind of gives the producers a right to produce gas. And our working pads from the operator are largely natural gas production more than even oil. So we do have our own MOU with the operator. We have air quality monitoring that makes sure that we don't have excessive emissions from those pads. So I think they're in some extent, to some extent, there could be questions or at least court cases that could come up about if this initiative 177 were to pass, if the operator would somehow question if we were somehow trying to curtail their production in some way. I think it's all within the realm of possibilities with the vague way that that initiative is written. And as far as you mentioned our GHG goals, we certainly do have GHG goals in this for Broomfield. We have a building code which we just adopted recently, which is more energy efficient. You can use both regular HVAC systems, which are fuel efficient, or you can go electric. And we certainly wouldn't want anything at the constitutional level in the state to cause any developer bringing a proposal forward to decide, well, I was thinking about going with the development all electric, but now I'm not so sure, since there's this initiative 177 hanging out there that might cause a little commotion if a resident in that development decided they wanted gas infrastructure to their home when everyone else had electric infrastructure. So that's the way I've looked at the possible impacts locally of that initiative 177 so far. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. We'll poll council on that. Councilmember Henkel?
Thank you, Mayor, and I echo strongly what Mayor Pro Tem Lim is discussing, because this does open up a lot of things that we've already gone through a lot of pain in Broomfield on, particularly with local control and our local GHG emissions. I just have a few questions. I don't mind moving forward with opposing this. I just want to ask a few clarifying questions. Did it make the ballot yet? Because I don't think it has officially made the ballot yet.
No, so similar to Initiative 175, it's in the signature gathering. They are due by June 25th.
Okay. We might want to wait to see if it makes the ballot or not. I'm up for a discussion on that one. And then the second question is, I'm assuming because it's so messy to run a bill this late, to run guardrails on such a devastating initiative. And I do worry about anytime, gosh, something constitutional. I don't know if anyone knows this. Not everyone on council might know this, but a constitutional change, that's 55% of the voters, but also you can't change that in legislative session. So, if it's statutory, then the legislators can modify it in session, but if it's constitutional, you cannot change that. So that's one of the things that worries me the most, I will say. I will also say too, like, what does this leave us with rulemaking if it were to pass? It almost seems like the law would just contradict itself, because it is law right now to hit certain GHG goals. Was there any discussion as to why they wouldn't want to put guardrails against it right now? Or do you know why they didn't move that forward this week?
Thank you, Councilmember Hinkle. I think it was just a matter of time, and there's powerful lobbying groups from the different sides, and I don't think they were able to come to a solution that could have moved forward
Okay.
with what time was left in the session.
It was basically, they were trying to move it so that they would stop the ballot initiative, I believe is why they were trying to do it. Or were they trying to
It would've-
preempt it.
Yeah, it would have created guardrails on the back end for local governments around clarifying local control in specific areas.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I wonder if that would have stopped anything, which they seem to be quite over the top in that sense. I do worry about rulemaking in that sense. If it does pass, I do worry strongly about any sort of local control that we could potentially lose, that we have fought so hard for when it comes to gas production here in Broomfield. So would love to take direction with council if we need to, but I also might want to wait until it actually hits the ballot, it makes the ballot. Thank you.
All right, next is Councilmember Cohen.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to just clarify on two things. On the 177 that's sent for a vote in June, was I reading the memo correctly, or is that tonight?
Oh, she was asking if we wanted to take a position tonight.
Tonight, okay.
Yeah.
And maybe, since we're coming, maybe not for tonight, but for June, there's another initiative, 175, which I saw them petition gathering at King's this weekend, where the sign was, let's put more money into transportation without raising taxes, which is highly misleading, because it would take 700 million out of the general fund and allocate it to transportation, and that means taking 700 million out of education, Medicaid, would close some hospitals probably. So it would be nice to oppose that as well, since there's nothing good that'll come out of that initiative.
Thank you, Councilmember Cohen. That is the one so that is not on the ballot for sure yet, but council did take an opposed position on that initiative. And one thing Attorney Rogers and I were discussing today, just for clarity for council, with the ballot initiatives, we're not able to, once you take a position, we register that and notify that, and that's the end of the work that we're able to do because it is a ballot question. So I just want to manage expectations that it looks different than advocacy efforts related to legislation. So if council does take a position on a ballot question, we'll note it, and then that's the extent of staff and city and county dollars towards that initiative.
Is that all your questions, Councilmember Cohen? You're up. Okay. Councilmember Ward.
Thank you, Mayor. Since Mayor Pro Tem Lim made a motion to oppose Initiative 177, I will second the motion.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Can we do we need a roll call vote, or can we do a vote on the fly? Or should we do a straw poll? I'm asking the clerk. Not an agenda item. It's not an agenda link. What do you think, Ms. Rogers? How do we handle this vote?
Thank you, Mayor. Since this is in your council's rules that council could take a position on legislation and the legislation was on the agenda, I think council can take a vote. You can do a roll call vote.
All right, do we have to have discussion?
That would be your discretion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to oppose Initiative 177. Is there any discussion? Mayor Pro Tem Lim.
I understand that there was another council member who said maybe we could wait till this goes on the ballot. I mean, we did take a position already on 175, even though that's not secure on the ballot yet either. The position would at least register, if enough communities, I guess, took a position against 177, it would signal something, hopefully, to the sponsors of the Initiative 177 that might deter them from going forward. So we would hope. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Any other discussion? Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you. And I have not read up on this as much as Mayor Pro Tem Lim has, but all of these reasons that she gave, plus the fact that the constitutional amendment goes above and beyond the things that we can control and could trickle down and have the impacts on Broomfield, I think we're wise to oppose it. And I am just curious, if we were to wait, what would we wouldn't really have much that we would do anyways within the city and county of Broomfield. I think that early position is wise, but if we were to wait, there's not much that we would do anyways from a city county perspective.
Councilmember Anderson, it'd be the same. We just note the opposition and
Either way, okay. So I think we should just take the position now. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Henkel.
Thank you, Mayor. No, that's fine. We can take a position in that, and I would definitely support that. I just didn't know if there was, I just wanted to make sure there was definite language that we're working with. There's no change in language. They are in the signature gathering phase. And in that sense, we can vote on this. I, no problem with that. I just wanted to hear feedback. Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Then we'll take a vote. Are we going to do roll call or we're going to do agenda link?
Do roll call.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Cohen,
Yes.
Councilmember Delgadillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Hinkle,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lim.
Yes.
Councilmember McKenzie,
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Twist,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
Thank you. That passes unanimously, 10-0. We stand opposed. Thank you all for the discussion. Is there anything else on the legislative update side for tonight, or we're good? Get some rest. Thank you, Ms. Brouillard. All right, so moving on, we are finally at, the CMO reports. So we'll continue with the report section. City Manager Hoffman, do you have a report?
I do not, thank you.
Thank you. Attorney Rogers, do you have a report?
No, thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. We're at the consent agenda. Council's consideration of the consent items is next. The clerk will read all of the consent items by title, and there'll be one opportunity for public comments and council questions and comments. Will the clerk please read agenda items 6A through 6E by title? Oh, I forgot no, did I? We're good.
We already did general public comment.
Yeah, we did regular public comment. Are you really trying to help me? Seriously? You did. All right. Will the clerk please read agenda items 6A through 6CE by title? I threw a Post-it.
6A, approval of minutes for the regular council meeting of April 28th, 2026. 6B, proposed resolution number 2026-57, authorizing and approving a permit for the 2026 fireworks display on July 4th. 6C, proposed resolution number 2026-64, authorizing use of service expansion fee funds with Adams 12 5-star schools for costs associated with the Westlake Middle School track. 6D, proposed resolution number 2026-22, approving an intergovernmental agreement with Boulder County for the 120th Street Multimodal Safety Improvements Project. 6E, proposed resolution number 2026-75, authorizing and approving a change order to Civil Specialties, Inc. for additional construction services for the restoration of the Anthem Pond 45 inlet.
Thank you very much. We'll now proceed with public comments. Would anyone like to be heard on the consent agenda items? Anybody on the phone? Okay, then does any member of council have any comments or questions on these agenda items? Guess we got all this. Oh, there we go. Councilmember Peterson.
I saw the firework display permit about setting off fireworks given our drought conditions and the fire ban that we have going on in general. And so I raised this question to the staff, and I was actually very appreciative of the thoughtful detail that they have put into their protocols and backup plans, given the weather, et cetera, for the fireworks display. And I was just wondering if you could speak to some of the things that you've done to make sure that contingencies are taken care of, especially when it comes to fire. And yeah.
Absolutely, we appreciate that. Clay Shuck is going to it's not a presentation, but essentially go over some of the answers. So some of the Q&A.
Yes,
So
I
that the-
appreciate that so
you
that our
bet.
community can be assured as well.
Yep, absolutely. Mr. Shuck?
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council, Clay Shuck, Director of Operations. I actually have two sides of the house. I have Parks, Recreation, Senior Services, and the Office of Emergency Management. So I get to look at this from both angles. This is really something that we do every single year. This is part of our overall planning. We start planning about 8 months in advance of this particular event. And with that, we're always meeting with our partners, North Metro Fire, the Police Department, streets, our internal crews, communications, obviously the Recreation Department and the Office of Emergency Management. So monitoring and making sure that all the way up to the time that we launch the fireworks is very important to us, and safety is always that main and primary consideration. About 8:45 to 9 o'clock, the team gathers, we have discussion. We've already talked to the National Weather Service, and we know what the weather conditions are like for the evening, and we're able to either shoot the fireworks or hold if we need to hold. We don't do a makeup date. We decided that a few years ago. The reason why is because we don't want to hold staffing. So we spend a lot of time and effort on this from a staff perspective. And so we don't want to have a second time where we're just waiting and staff might have to work for the second night. So we decided about 5 years ago, right after COVID actually, is no longer to hold that second evening. We also are in touch with our regional partners on a regular basis. Jenny Morgan, who's our community special events coordinator, is on that group, and we talk to our neighbors. We know what everybody else is doing. We've included that in the memo that Brighton, Erie, North Glen, Thornton, and Westminster are all really where we are. In addition to that, sort of a number of other agencies. We just give you the ones that are close to us, but we also know what Denver's doing, Monument, Avon, Granby. I mean, we kind of the whole course, and everybody's kind of in the same position. They're watching what the weather's going to do like we do every single year. Being in the environment that we're in Colorado, we could have a very wonderful spring snowpack and in June get really hot days and be in fire bans in July. So this is just common and standard operating procedure for us. On site, we have a very professional staff that's out at the launch site. That includes the professional pyrotechnic staff, along with North Metro staff, a brush truck, and then there's also resources within the event itself from North Metro Fire. We do a really good job of laying out the plan and the layout of it. We mow the field ahead of time. We've got about a 70-foot drop around everything from all sides, so that if we do get even a little bit of wind, we're thinking about what the drop of that looks like for the debris that are coming down, and we make sure that we're staying outside of not of the spectators, but the houses. So the other question that was asked is overall about the cancellation financial impact. In the agreement that we set up with our vendor, the cancellation really is that we pay 50% of the cost if we decide to cancel prior to the event. Our contingency plan for this year is if we did run into the weather delays or we get a worsening concerns about fire, that we would run the event up to the fireworks and then not hold the fireworks. And then what we would do is we would pay that contingency or that 50% back to the contractor, and we would then negotiate next year for the remaining and the inventory that they are going to hold for us. If we did a full cancellation, again, we would be responsible for everything that we have at the event that we've already signed. I mean, we've been signing contracts for months because it takes that. Everybody has big events on July 4th. So between our stage, our performers, our fencing, our security staff, all of that is done well in advance to make sure that we have those assets ready and on site for this event. It is a big community event, especially this year, with it being the 250 and the 150 for Colorado. So we are anticipating, regardless, that we're going to have a fairly decent crowd in attendance. So overall, again, we make sure that we're really looking at this from a safety standpoint and consideration. We have all the partners involved in those conversations, and we continue to have those conversations truly up until the moment we launch the fireworks.
Thank you so much, Director Tuck. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right. Any other questions from my colleagues? All right, seeing none. Is there a motion by council that consent items 6A through 6E be approved? Councilmember Delgadillo.
So moved.
Is there a second? Councilmember Peterson, you get to second this one. I voluntold you. Is there any discussion? All right, council, please cast your vote electronically. All council members have entered their vote and the results will be displayed on the screen. And that passes unanimously 10-0. Thank you all very much. Looking at the time, I think we should go ahead and take our 10-minute recess before tackling the final item tonight. So it's 7:55. We'll be back at 8:05. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. And we are on our final item, 7A, for our final item tonight, the Broomfield Town Square discussions with the developer. I'm going to turn it over to City and County Attorney Nancy Rogers to provide an update on discussions with the Broomfield Town Square developer.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem and councils and members of the community. Previously, the Broomfield Town Square developer had requested council formally consider an extension to a 3-year deadline, which is in our code, of their 2023 approved site development plan. A vote on that request was going to take place tonight. As council knows, we schedule stuff far in advance to lock in a time. Well, as many of you know in the community and council knows, we had a study session on April 21st, and following that study session on the town square development and additional discussions between staff and the developer's representatives, the developer has requested that council postpone this evening's vote. Instead of addressing just the site development plan extension as a standalone item, the developer has requested that it be considered at a later date along with a possible amendment to the 2019 redevelopment and reimbursement agreement. For those of you that listened in on the study session on April 21st, that also came up in that discussion that we started talking about reopening the agreement. Specifically, what the developer has requested is they want to extend the tax increment revenue financing, which is the return of sales tax and property tax and use tax revenue to the developer 2044, which is the current end date, to 2050. So what this means is that the vote on the site development plan extension as a standalone item is not going to take place tonight. Staff is going to move forward with negotiations with the developer. And to be clear, the developer is not asking that the council, borough, the city and county commit to any specific wording or any terms. No final decision would be made in these discussions. Anything would have to come back to council at a public meeting where public comment would be taken before any vote was made on an amendment that would extend the site development plan or amend the 2019 agreement. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rogers. So although this is not a formal item to decide on tonight, we will take public comment on this item. If any residents are using the call-in service, please indicate your desire to speak by pressing *9. We'll start with in-person comments. If anyone's here who would like to speak on Town Square, please make your way to the podium, state your name and neighborhood for the record, and limit your comments to 3 minutes, please.
Thank you for letting me speak, Council and Mayor Pro Tem. I'm Marlene Erickson. I live in the Northmore area on Aspen Street. The comments I'm making, I was unaware that the vote was not being taken tonight. So thank you for the explanation. And thank you, Council Member Anderson, for also explaining that to me. I've read articles in the Broomfield Enterprise. I've read an article here by KUNC, by Lucas High, Biz West, and I read an article from CBS News Colorado by Sarah, I don't know how you say her last name, Horbarchewitz. So my understanding was the vote tonight, so my comments as such. Based on these articles I've read, and I'll assume correct information, though you never know these days, the project's cost has reportedly ballooned to $390 million, with 74 million of that being public investment taxpayer funded. The original price point was at $184 million. I'm certainly in agreement with Councilmember Todd Cohen not wanting a First Bank 2.0. The city cannot afford that. And City Manager Jennifer Hoffman, I read, questions whether the project demonstrates readiness and financial clarity. The city staff also questions the reliability of the developer's financial models. Granting an extension is a sunk cost fallacy. We're throwing good money after bad. The developers are essentially using a 2044 exclusivity clause as a threat. This is not a legal reality the city must accept, but as a reason to terminate now for the failure to perform. The developers claim submitting a horizontal infrastructure plan, basically just pipes and roads, and a couple small buildings, they state counts as momentum. After all that time, that's not much planning for what the developer says has been $1 million worth of billable hours to plan a few pipes and roads. We shouldn't reward arrogant and condescending rhetoric with an 18-month extension. The developer's own leadership has placed blame on city staff roadblocks and threatens the 2044 exclusivity rights. I gathered that you had some difficult times on the meeting, but they're basically threatening you all. It's time to declare a breach of the development agreement based on a lack of performance so the city can actually move forward rather than waiting till 2044 for a downtown that's always 5 years away. A final thought about that Safeway building that's been vacant like for, I think, a dozen years. I mean, think if there had been some business in there, just think of all the sales tax dollars that would be in the city coffers by now. There would have been a lot of sales tax money that clearly could have been used for good purpose. So thank you for letting me have this time to express what I think is the best action for City Council to take. And again, it's based upon that which has been printed. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to be heard on this item? All right, we'll go to my council colleagues next then. Any member of council have any remarks at this point? Questions, and not that there's anybody to question. The developers are not here, so, all right, seeing none. I don't want to go forward and then somebody all of a sudden changes their mind. We're good? Okay. It looks like somebody's going to, see, I knew someone's going to press their button.
Since you were begging.
Thank you, Councilmember Cohen. Do it.
Do we have any estimate of when? Obviously, we don't know how the negotiations go, when you might be back, this might come back to council.
So,
Ballpark.
thanks for the question, Councilmember. We have been discussing that over the last couple of days. So you all will be receiving an email shortly from Attorney Rogers. We have our first communication regarding negotiation tomorrow morning. We have the next one set for Monday, the 18th. We also will be requesting council schedule 2 exec sessions. If we don't need them, we'll have them on the books with a return date mid-June, which was a very rough guesstimate based on how the negotiations go.
And the developer didn't set a date or a preferred deadline.
They did not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, well, that completes our discussion on that matter tonight. We'll continue to keep the public informed as to when this matter will be next scheduled for a public meeting. Stay tuned. There are no mayor or council member requests for future action this evening. Is there any other business to come before the council from my colleagues or staff? Seeing none, the business meeting is adjourned.